Ed the Ace McCulloch. Well, Ed was a real innovator. I met Ed 60 years ago. It was in 1972, 7 years later, when I became a customer from Ed. And he brought me in. We had been running. I'd been back on tour. We'd been running. But Ed, the thing that I always enjoyed about him was he always really sort of looked after me. I mean, there was the Schumachers and the Prudhommes and the guys that had probably a lot more money than I had that would come in, especially Schumacher. He'd come in and he would buy out pretty much everything Ed had over the winter, getting ready for the next year. Ed always took care of me. He always had enough stuff on the back shelf for me. And Don Melodon, Dooner, when he came out with his block, Ed and him teamed up. They had some issues with it that they needed to work out. And Ed and Dooner built and supplied that engine. And I ran that engine. It belonged to Ed and Melodon. And I ran that engine a lot for them in the development stages of that. And it was always, it was a big thrill for me to be able to do that. And he had faith in me to go out and run that with them. And like I said, Ed was a true friend. He always took care of me. He always looked after me. We did a lot of things together, off the racetrack, away from the racetrack. And even when Ed went on to building different types of engines and different forms of motorsports, we stayed in contact, and we did a lot of fun things together away from the track, and I cherish those memories. And you know, God bless and rest in peace, my friend.
Yeah, Bob Brandt, and back in early 70s, like 69, 70, when I first came out here, I went to Keith Black's, with Roland, because I had known him, and he's the one who introduced me to Prudhomme when he was in town, and I ended up hauling their dragster back to Englishtown. And while we were back there, the guy that was running the funny cars at the time and Prudhomme got into a little hassle, so that guy was gone. So then it was myself and a guy named Okie, and we ended up towing the dragster trailer behind the funny car truck and trailer, not trailer, but the car hauler, and went match racing in between every national event and dragged it back home. And when we got back, we had already changed it over to Ed Pink. Well, Ed was a special kind of guy because he didn't have a lot of people that he took time with. It was more about business and doing it right. And so I spent the last 2.5 years working with him out in Newbury Park on a little shop that he put together. And we did engines for people that he had promised that weren't done yet. So we built some engines. They all went out, everything went well, and he finally told me he was ready to pull the plug. I said, Ed, you're only 94. He goes, I know, but I think it's time. And I had, well, what could I say? I have my own issues with meds, but the main thing is he never gave up. And he always had an answer when I had a question. If he didn't have the answer, he'd get it. He was a different person away from the shop. Back in the day when we had our shop behind his shop for quite a few years in the 70s, late at night, a lot of times Ed would be there, and he'd bring me into the shop when the guys were gone, and he would teach me a lot about cylinder head stuff that he was doing himself all those years back with the flatheads. And I was able to pick up quite a bit of knowledge there. And then when we decided to do this retirement thing, it worked out well because I learned so much more. I mean, he has a memory, and he needs to be here. It's a shame. but he turned into my pal, not just a guy I worked with.
Hey, my name's Don Prudhomme, and they call me the Snake. And we're here for Ed Pink. He was a buddy of mine. You know, I met him in the early '60s, and we're all just a bunch of drag racers, and started driving for him and Lou Baney. And Ed Pink was amazing. He was an amazing engine builder, and the depth of what he had going as far as cylinder heads and everything was way over my head. But he put us in the winner's circle, and one of his greatest achievements was building the Ford Cammer overhead cam engine. He was spectacular at that, and I just had some great times with him. And he built 426s, Hemis for me for my funny car, the Army car. We won 3 or 4 championships with his motor. And so, more than anything, he was a good pal, and he was a lot of fun. We went nose to nose on some occasions, but all this time went by, and we were friends right up to the end, which I loved. Thank you.
Okay, my name's Dick Martin. I wrote Ed's story many years ago. I was invited down to his shop by Tom Medley, Stoker McGurk, my little thing on my hat. I never met Ed before, and Tom was going to sign him up for an ad in Hot Rod Magazine. He was a publisher at that time. And we really hit it off. I learned so much from Ed back then, and that kind of got me started on writing stories, historical stories on guys that were my heroes over the years. Ed being one of the very first, we became very close friends. And I mean literally friends. All these years, and I'm just so honored to sit by him next to him at the Hot Rod, the Nitro Revival, and sign autographs. And everyone that Ed met, he had all sorts of factual information, and he's literally an historian. There's no question in my mind. Whatever comes out of that man's mouth is accurate. His knowledge is amazing. He was really a forerunner because he was one of the first to put on T-shirts at Bonneville and actually started that whole concept. And all of the years with his computers, his knowledge of engines, and early on when the overhead valves came out, they were having problems with the cams being worn out. And no question about it, his innovation with a little groove in the cam lobe, much like a dentist does with somebody's tooth, saved a lot of those cams. And Louis Center and him were lifelong friends. And Louis and Ed put ads in the very first Hot Rod magazine, and that took off. And his cams were noisy. Nobody here wanted them, but by gosh, the NASCAR guys did, because they had low-end torque. But everything he's done has been, he's definitely a forerunner, very much ahead of his time to this day. And I'm grateful to have written this story, to know Ed as a close friend, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Bill Holland. I first met Ed in the mid-1960s when he had a shop in Tony Nancy's compound in Sherman Oaks, and subsequently became a customer of his when my partner John Goodell and I were racing Top Fuel in the mid to late 60s, and what a guy. Anyway, later on in life I became editor of National Dragster, and would, right in the middle of the pink and black war, and went on in later life. I went into the advertising and marketing business, and subsequently when Ed went back to, he sold the shop and he opened up Ed Pink's garage in Newbury Park. I designed the logo and all the artwork and helped Ed with that little enterprise. a bright, nice man, and I am really sorry to have seen him gone, but he will be remembered by many, many people as one of the best.
Hey, Dave Merrick from Lions Board of Directors. Yeah, I mean, I knew Ed. Everybody knew Ed. And Ed would be around the museum a lot. And, you know, you always think that everybody you've ever met in motorsport are aggressive or like super. He was the nicest guy, but then so are most of motorsport people. I'm in the library room here at Lions, and we're doing the Celebration of Life for Ed right now. And I look around and there's, oh, Ed, every book here is like an engine from him. I mean, so as a kid growing up, it literally every funny car I ever built by Revell, every, you know, model kit I got, every time I drew a picture, painted a picture, it was always involving, you know, Prudhomme or McEwen or somebody like that, and it was always Ed. And then when you finally meet him and you think, this is the guy? Wow, he's not a big guy, but he's huge is what he is. But then later, you know, I do a lot of work with Joey Cavalieri and people like that. So Ed was building the engines for those cars, like you have a 907 or a 917. It was Ed doing the engine work, and you think, I think somebody said earlier today at the event that he's just a drag racing guy. And you think, no, he is the engine guy for anything. And I think at the end of the day, if you've ever heard of Ed or know Ed, the breadth of motorsport it's immense of all the things that he's touched and done, you know, from Indy 500 to drag racing to every kind of car. So I think today is a celebration for Ed, and I think it's like he's one of the cornerstones of all motorsports, maybe automotive industry.
Oh, Harry Hibbler, and Ed was a friend of mine for over 65 years, so we go back. We did a lot of racing stuff together, but one of my favorite stories to show, I guess this is Ed's sense of humor. I was in the construction business. I was doing a lot of work at his house, and I would coil up my cards every night after we'd get through. I'd throw them in the back. One night, I had worked all day long, putting down some stuff. I'm coiling my cords, and I was throwing it over my shoulder as I was coiling it, and it kept hitting me in the ear. And I kept thinking, oh, this is it. So I reached up and I grab it and I pull it down, and it's a little baby rattlesnake about 1.5 feet long. And I'm standing there, I'm holding the rattlesnake by the head, and it's like, okay, Ed, what do I do with this? And he never cracked a smile. He looked at me and he says, I do not like my neighbor. So we tossed it over the fence to the neighbor's yard. And that was just typical of Ed. I had keys to his shop. I can remember when he would come to his shop when I was building it at night after my regular work. And sometimes he came in the morning and woke me up laying on a stack of drywall because we were trying to get the shop finished for his grand opening, and we made it. But that was just Ed. We were friends, and he was the same thing. We used to do some bench racing with Tony and Nancy when they were across the street from across the parking lot from each other. And there were some great stories came out there too. So it was a fun time.
My name's Dick DeLuna, and my Ed Pink story is that I'm very proud to have the last flathead that Ed built. I have it in a 36 5-window coupe Rolling Bones car that I've taken to Bonneville a couple times and ran it at El Mirage. And I told Ed, build me a street motor. Well, he built this damn thing that it won't idle but it goes very fast. Today I'm wearing a brand new Ed Pink hat that he gave me when he gave me the last bill. And I asked him, I says, Ed, is this a gift? He said, what do you mean a gift? I said, well, you're going to charge me for it? He says, yeah, to be on the next bill. So I got to wear this with pride because it's not a freebie. like Roy Brizio, who's standing on the other part of the room. Gives all his hats away. I just one out of paper. Loved Ed. My annual visit with Roy and a lot of other friends to the Grand National Show, I'd always get a call from Ed saying, "Are you going to get a golf cart?" And I'd get a golf cart so we could run around. And then for LA Roadster Show, because of the swap meet, I had to get a golf cart with a back on it, so we'd haul around and buy stuff. And every time I'd buy some Automobilia or something, he said, "What are you buying that shit for?" So, miss you, Ed. Love you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Roy Brizio. I first met Ed 25 years ago through Vic Edelbrock. Introduced me, and Ed had a project he was putting together, a little Model A Roadster, and we started BSing at dinner one night, and he said, "I've heard of you, could you help me with my project?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll fly down and visit you." And I went to see Ed about a month later and said, "Yeah, Ed, we can handle this. This is what we do every day." And Ed had this car for 20 years that he was building, and he had a great start. He's a perfectionist, so everything he had already started on it was perfect. And I don't think he originally trusted me in finishing it for him because he is such a perfectionist. He wants to do everything himself. But he gave me the project to do. We finished it, and we spent the next 15 years having a lot of fun driving hot rods together. I have a lot of respect for Ed. He's a wonderful man, and I really cherish the years we got to spend together. I miss him. I love him. And his family, Sylvia and Nancy, we all had a great time together, and we can still keep doing that. So hopefully Sylvia will take that Roadster out and come on another trip with us somewhere. Love you, Ed.
My name is Lyle Larson. I got out of the Army in 1970. First job was at Edelbrock. They needed someone to balance crankshafts. I knew nothing about it. I went there and I was petrified. I wanted that job so bad, to work for this company, Edelbrock, that I'd heard of because I'm a car guy from the day I was born. I'm there about 1 week, and Vic Edelbrock came up behind me, put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Welcome aboard." I thought, oh my God, Vic Edelbrock. As it went on, I balanced crankshafts for Ed Pink. All the Moldex crankshafts that were brought in were Ed Pink. We did Schumacher's, we did the Barry Setzer car, we did Prudhomme's car. Everything that was Ed Pink, I balanced. I weighed about 135 pounds then. Crankshafts, I think, weighed 96. So, fortunately, one day we hired a new guy, and the way we put our Mallory metal in, the heavy weight, we put it in by pounding it in, not sideways. Well, the new guy didn't pound it in enough or cap it. Early in the morning, we get there at 7 o'clock, and Ed Pink is there waiting for us. I think, this is not going to be a good day. Ed goes, "The Soupy Sales car, I don't know what happened, but something came out of the crankshaft. Look at this." It came out of the crankshaft, went through the block, through the blower, through the injector, through the windshield, never to be found. So Ed brings it in. I fix the crankshaft. As I'm fixing it, I'm drilling on it, and I'm changing drill bits. And what I changed the drill bits with, I had to pound in there and knock the drill out. Well, it fell down and hit the crank in front of Ed Pink. I looked at Ed and I'm petrified, and Ed goes, "You might want to use that crank." That was his joke. And I thought, oh my God, if he tells Vic, I'll get fired. That was our secret to the day he died. I said one time, I said, "God, I was so afraid you're going to tell Vic." He goes, "Wow, why would I do that?" Just the nicest man I ever met, class act. I've been so fortunate in my life to meet the people I have. It's just been a very fortunate ride for me. It's always been cars from the day I was born, and I'm just a fortunate individual to know all these people. Thank you.
Well, I can't do one of these without making waves, as you well know. And I was working for Bainey at Yeagle, Plymouth, and he and I used to go here and there, particularly with the Donovans and places like that, and tell stories. And so McEwen was driving the Brandt Motors car with a Ford in it, and he got a deal from one of the future sponsors. And so he left the Brandt organization and the good times with Baney. And Baney and I are sitting there talking. He says, well, what do I do now? I said, well, Prudhomme just gave the B&M car back to B&M, so it looks like he's available. Really? He says. I said, yeah. He says, well, I'll give him a call. And he hired him. And then the gathering, all the people around, Vince Rossi and Gavlich and everybody's around, and he says, who do I get to get the engine work done that I can count on? I said, well, my favorite is Zuccio. And he says, let's go talk to him. So we get in the car. He don't call. We just drive out to the shop, and it's closed. He says, all right, smart guy, what do we do now? I says, well, there's always Pink. And so he says, yeah, Pink probably could do it. So we parted company, and he went out and got Pink, and I went and got a job. And I see him for the first time as an organization in Las Vegas for what was then a big event. It was still Brandt Motors because the riots hadn't happened. Riots got Brandt Motors. Anyway, so Pink's building the engine, Prudhomme's driving, it's the first time out. Goes down the racetrack, bang, big fire, off into the dirt. That's not too good. Bring it back to the pits, and I'm standing there with Prudhomme, and I said, when's the last time you had a fire? And he had driven some awful good cars. He says, well, let me think. Probably the last time I drove for Pink. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Hi, Kenny Youngblood here, and we're at the celebration live for Ed Pink at the Lions Museum. And I got a quick Ed Pink story. I believe I may hold a distinction as myself and my friend at 16 years old, being the only two guys to possibly come close to getting run over by the old master dragster at Fontana. We were out there at the races, and if you're ever at Fontana, there was no guardrails. It was just asphalt, grass, or weeds, and they had some phone poles over the side. I think a cable, I don't know how far down it went. We were way down by the finish line, and with just weeds between the pit area and the grass and the track. And so I brilliantly suggested to my friend that we crawl out there and get right up to the track and watch him come by. You know, what could possibly go wrong? And so we crawl out there, and the lighting was lousy and nobody could see us, but we creep out there. We're about 10 feet from the edge of the track, and Mike Snively in the old master car, I forget who he was racing, but they take off smoking the tires back then, coming at us. Well, he gets about half track and then, or past that, and this thing gets sideways, and he ends up over in the grass. So we're here, and here he's coming at us at about 180 miles an hour at that grass. Man, we ran out of there as fast as we could, and he came by. I don't remember if he got back on the track or what, but you know, I wish I'd have known Ed more intimately than I did. Met him in the 70s during what I call the great funny car boom of the 70s, and I was fortunate enough to be right on the front line there, designing the graphics and painting the cars, and got to know Ed casually, would see him at the track and this and that, but wish I'd have spent more time with him. I can say this, that I painted red pink racing engines on the side of more race cars than anybody else. God bless. Thanks for listening.